If you are serious about playing badminton, competing in tournaments is probably something you've done or at least are considering. This video will help you prepare for that competition so that you peak at the right time. Hi, I'm Coach Kennie and I've been a professional badminton coach for many years. This channel is all about helping you improve your badminton game. I make videos on different aspects of badminton, from executing shots well to having a good mindset when playing. Joining competitions is a great way to excel in sports, and this of course includes badminton. Competing can make you sharper and it could really up your game. I'll be giving you some tips so that you can train smart and play your best at the right moment. Before we discuss on exactly how to peak in a tournament, we have to discuss what our training schedules must be like in order for us to prepare for tournaments. So it depends on, it varies from player to player, from team to team, depending on, of course, your availability. Some are still students, some are working, so that would depend on your availability. But I would say that a good decent amount of training time would be 2 hours in the morning, 2 hours in the late afternoon. Try to give your body some rest in between. By resting, you can do other things. You can be studying, you can be working. So your body needs that rest before it moves on to the next training session. Now in badminton, there are a lot of requirements for our physical fitness. Aside from being physically strong, our muscles, we need to take care of our muscles as well. Okay, we do not want to overdo things. We do not want to have muscles in areas that will, constrict us from our movements. Like for example, in weights, weight training, we don't want this back part, this area, to be very big, because in badminton there are many movements which require you to move fast from side to side. Okay, we don't want our muscles to be very stiff, not big and bulky, like probably those weightlifters, because we want our muscles to be just right for us to be able to move on court. But then again, of course, it's a case-to-case basis depending on our body structure. Some of us are more muscular, but our goal is not to be muscular. Our goal is to be strong. We need to work on our strength. We need to work on our core. We need to work on flexibility. So all these aspects of strengthening will come into your training program. So I suggest that you have a good coach or a good trainer who can sit down with you and plan it with you, because we are all very different. I may have good strong core, but for example, I might be weak in other areas, and it will go the same for each individual. So it is good to know what parts you need to work on more and what other parts you just need to maintain. Okay, so badminton is all about speed and explosive power. So really, you want to work towards that goal. Of course, needless to say, you need to work on your court play. More training should be on court, because after all, that's what you are competing for, on court. The other areas are just add-ons, okay? Add-ons. And so, you need someone to plan it with you so that your training specifically fits your need. Badminton has no off-season. So basically, we train the whole year round. Even like for players that specifically work on certain tournaments. So in our case, like here in the Philippines, we have some big major tournaments, the collegiate ones. It's just once a year, and it's, it lasts for 3 to 4 weeks. But after that, you can't just sit and not do anything. Okay? You need to work the whole year round, because it can be detrimental if you put a full stop after your competition. So everything else is sort of like maintenance, maintaining your body strength, and of course, working in areas that you want to improve on. And I truly feel that you as a player will always feel like there's something needed to be improved on. Players who really go to competitions consistently, like I remember at some point in my competitive career that we would be out, my brother and I would go out for competitions, 3 weeks straight, and then come home for a week or two and then go out again. That was one of the most hectic schedules that we had. But again, you have to focus on where you want to peak. If you have a lot of tournaments, you have to choose which ones you want to peak at, because it's impossible to peak week after week after week. So if you sit down and plan which tournaments you'll be joining, then that would be better, and you can gear your training towards peaking in certain tournaments. Now, if you don't have that much tournament, like let's say you enjoy joining one tournament a month, then that's a good kind of number. One every other month, or one every 3 months, or one a month is a good gap. I would specifically like to stress out that working on training and doing all these stuff, our nutrition and hydration is very, very important. Okay, I cannot stress enough how much hydration makes our performance well. So even in training, I always tell my players, hydrate before, during, and after trainings. You cannot just hydrate yourself before a game, or maybe just hydrate after a game. It's a conscious effort. So needless to say, we as athletes, we as players, is sort of like a 24/7 thing. There is really no time or point that you can say you can let your body not take in enough that much fluid, or that you will sometimes forget meals. No, try to keep a good schedule where you eat right, where you hydrate yourself correctly. Okay, so for me, that is very, very important. Some of us may not even know it. Sometimes we go into trainings or we go into competitions dehydrated. I mean, it can be slight dehydration, but when the game becomes very, very tough, that's when you really, really feel it. So you don't want it to get to that point. You want to make sure that you cover each and every aspect before you get on court. So proper nutrition and proper hydration is very, very important. Okay, so for the part where we are all waiting for, how to peak, coaches, players may have different, strategies or ways to peak. As for me, in my personal experience, how my dad, who was also my coach, did it for us was that we would taper off the week before the actual tournament. So what do we mean when we taper off? There are many ways in tapering off. You can lessen the number of hours on court. For example, you're used to having a 3-hour session. You can cut it down to 2 or maybe 1.5. That's how you taper off. Or for example, you have multiple sessions in one day. You can cut it. Let's say you have 3 sessions a day. Maybe you'll taper off by just having 2. Okay? It's very, very important that we taper off. Okay, if our bodies are too tired going into a tournament, it will be very, very hard for it to sustain and to be able to keep that strength all throughout. So it's pretty much like hydration. You can't be dehydrated. You can't be overly trained. I remember my dad, who was my coach. He'd always say that it's actually better to be undertrained than overtrained before getting into a tournament. Meaning, there are times when players, because they're cramming or because they feel like they have so many things to work on, they keep working on it day in, day out as it gets close to the tournament. that is actually the wrong way to go. Maybe when you get to the tournament, your body is too exhausted already, and it's not advisable, and you will not be able to play your best. Okay. On the other hand, if you feel that you're a bit lacking, it's okay. When you get on court, the adrenaline rush can still help you, push you and make your game better. If your body is too tired because it was overtrained, then even with the adrenaline rush, it can only sustain you for a short period of time. So we do not want that. So be very, very careful not to overtrain coming into a tournament. Sometimes making the training also just a little lighter. Like instead of the usual running and running all the time, you can focus on just one spot, focusing on your movement, the movement of that spot, and making good returns. So there are many different ways, and coaches would vary in terms of those tapering off. For you to be able to perform well in the tournaments, you have to warm up really, really well. Warm up to such a point that you're slightly sweating, because if you are warmed up well enough, when you get on court, there are less chances of you freezing. Because you're warm, your body is ready to move. If you do not warm up enough and just go on court and just, go for the tournament, sometimes we're too nervous that we freeze. We freeze and we can't move as much. So try to, do your regular warm up outside before you actually get on court, and know how long the time you would need to warm up before getting on court. So good luck, and I do hope that you can perform to the best of your abilities when your tournament comes. Diet and nutrition both play an important part when you are training for a competition. Click the video on your screen to learn more about eating right for maximum performance on the badminton court. Catch my next video so you can level up your game and become a smashing success.